today we are here with Dr. Terry, and we are talking about Match Day. So, Dr. Terry, can you start by explaining what Match Day is?
Well, unlike many other professions, a medical student, when they graduate medical school, they apply for jobs, but not just one job. They apply to many, many different hospitals, or health systems rather. And then it's kind of a process to which they go in the match and they rank places they want. And the places that they have interviewed at ranks them. And that's how this process works. So they may or may not get their first choice, and the hospital system consequently may or may not get their first choice. So you typically rank anywhere from 10 to maybe even 20 programs. And you could end up at any one of those 20 programs. It's just where the numbers work and how the algorithm plays out. So it's a very, very unique way, but that is how we get physicians from the some 140 MD medical schools and the 67 DO medical schools. They all participate, and then you have about 10,000 to 12,000 international graduates who are in this. So all totaled, you've got about 34,000 people in this match. They're not actually, typically there's like 40,000, but there's only about 33,000 first-year spots. So some people do not always get a residency. So it's a big, big day, a day of jubilation. Sometimes if they don't necessarily get their first choice or perhaps the specialty they want, not a happy day, but at least they find a place where they go. Historically, LECOM has done very well in the match, typically well over 99% for all of our 4 campuses, so we're very happy about that. And that's because of the very broad, vast, robust network of hospitals and health systems that LECOM has that are affiliated with us, that take our students, so they apply to those, and they're more apt to hopefully match those, if not as a first choice, at least as a backup choice. And we have a number of different specialties, from orthopedics to dermatology to family medicine. But those are, some of the specialties are very competitive. So it's a very, very big day, Christina, and the students will find out on Monday if they matched. So did a residency take me? Then they don't find out where until Friday.
Oh my goodness.
For students who may not match in the first round, they then go through a process of supplemental process where they rank other programs and perhaps other specialties. They'll interview for them, typically on a Tuesday and a Wednesday. It's kind of like a speed dating interview because they have obviously not applied to these programs before. And then they go through a rapid match, 4 different rounds potentially on Thursday. So it can be a long, long week for someone who may not match. But we're optimistic and very hopeful that we'll get all of our students placed by the end of the week.
So would you say for students that are going into Match Day, it's important for them to, of course, be excited for their first choice, but to also have backup ideas in terms of just in case?
Oh my goodness, not only backup hospitals, backup health systems, backup specialties. It's crucial because a lot of this just really comes down to your board scores, maybe your academics, your level of research, how many research projects did you do, how many papers did you publish. There are so many arbitrary things. And in specialties that are highly competitive, ortho, plastic surgery, ENT, where 30 to 40% of applicants that are typically matching in those are from the top 40 medical schools in the country, they're even more competitive. Thus, you must have a backup. You must have a backup plan. What is plan B? What specialty could I be in, could I live with? A lot of students will then say, well, if I don't get that, I'll do a 1-year program and reapply. That philosophy for students who are watching, I'm not crazy about, because the problem is you go back in the match the second time. After getting just a 1-year program, your chance of matching is less than 50% if you didn't have an add-on program. So I don't like that. I don't like that. I'm typically pick a specialty that you want, that you have a chance of getting, and pick a backup that you can realistically match into. And most of the time, at least today, that would be family medicine. Internal medicine, not quite as much, but definitely family or peds. Over the past 2 years, emergency medicine has not been as competitive, though I am seeing an uptick in that. I expect that year it will be. This year it will be more competitive.
Now, do you happen to know the numbers of students that apply to stay locally here in Elmira with our local hospitals, if it's a good amount?
I do. Last year alone at Arnett, I believe they matched 14 from LECOM. And I want to say that in our other sites, Guthrie matched 4. And then I believe there were many in Rochester and Mohawk Valley, so a good number. And that number will be higher this year. In fact, at Arnett last year, all 5 of the psychiatry first-year residents, now mind you, all 5 were from LECOM. And psychiatry has become very competitive. It's was one of the most competitive among DO applicants and MD applicants. So the answer is having this safety net of hospitals, this robust hospital system with Arnett, Rochester Regional, Mohawk Valley, Guthrie, all in this area, all taking our students for various rotations, Lourdes, Guthrie. They have good opportunities to match into competitive specialties, both the highly competitive surgical specialties, but moreover other specialties like internal medicine and family medicine and things of that nature. PM&R for one too.
And I know you personally really like to, not necessarily push, but advise people to look into family medicine. Have you seen an uptick in family medicine at all, internal medicine?
You know what, I have a little bit this year, more in family and peds. I think it's important for students to realize, who may be watching, these are prospective students, whatever we think that will happen in medicine with AI and all will be 10,000 times beyond anything we can imagine. It will literally change the way certain specialties even operate and the way medicine functions. It has to. It enables a doctor, a primary care doctor, who may be a good empath, relates well to patients, to have the diagnostic ability of a Harvard-trained specialist at the tip of their fingers. It will change things. But in other words, I think it'll put much more emphasis on primary care and the ability, because that diagnostic ability in some specialty care could be available via AI with recognition of dermatological lesions, recognition of x-rays and things of that nature. You'll always need proceduralists, but I think it will change in a way and in somewhat empower primary care to what it really ought to be, preventative medicine largely, because if the best treatment for any disease really is prevention, getting it in the first place. And that's foundationally what primary care does.
Wonderful. And switching gears a little bit, you mentioned that in terms of match day, academics is very important to how they rank, how they're chosen. Just talking to future students about really focusing on your studies.
Well, I think that it's important to be realistic, Christina. The boards are very important. Your performance in medical school is very important, particularly if you're going for one of those very, very competitive specialties, like ortho, anesthesia, plastic surgery, ENT. They're very, very, very competitive. Dermatology. Those 5, there aren't a lot of programs. You've got DOs and MDs, voting for those. So in that sense, unless you're academically there with a very competitive board score and a high-class rank and publications and community service, chances are you'll not even get a look in a lot of those programs. You will in our LECOM programs, but there just aren't a lot of specialties there, unfortunately.
So it's not only the academics that they're looking at, they're also looking at what they're involved in outside of school as well.
That is true. That is true. But the platform and the minimum entry is the academics. Mm-hmm. If you don't meet the academics, what happens, Christina, is they set filters on who they interview. And if you don't have that requisite score, that's where people tend to get closed out. So that's where we try to be very realistic with the students to say, hey, this is where you've been academically, you're great, you're going to be a great doctor, but this specialty may be a challenge to get simply because you're not meeting that average score. That just, most specialties that is not the case. There's a much more holistic process to selection. In some specialties, that just isn't. But family medicine, internal medicine to some extent, pediatrics, there'll be a little bit, more holistic in there, and it won't just be a score, but orthopedics, ENT, plastic surgery. It's a score you've got to achieve before you even get the look. That's hard for some to fathom, but that is the reality of these specialties. It is really about that. I think what sets LECOM aside is the vast number of residencies that we have. We're always developing more residencies. But what it means is you have a better chance at the end game. And the end game is finding a spot. It's it. It's not worry. You want to have a great education that'll prepare you well for your boards, that'll expose you to various residencies so you can ultimately match. We can't ever lose sight of the end game. And I think that's something we value tremendously at LECOM. And we are constantly in development phase, constant development phase. What other residencies can we develop? What other fellowships can we develop? What other places can we partner with to enable better options for a positive match for our students?
And to go back to, you mentioned that LECOM has had a 99% success in the past. So talking to prospective students, that's a great reason to also look at LECOM, among and every other reason for LECOM, but having that success rate is amazing.
Right, it is, and I think that they also have to look at the broad spectrum of programs that our students match into. We had like 18 get anesthesia last year. We'll see what happens this year. A bunch got surgery, some orthopedics. We had the spectrum of all specialties. A lot of places might promote, we have a 99, 100% match rate, but students aren't getting their first specialty. I think here you'll have that option.
Wonderful, wonderful. Do you personally have any advice for current and or future students as they prepare for their own match day?
Well, stay calm. You've done your best. It's at this point out of your control. At the end of the day, this is really all a numbers game. And when you look at the NRMP data, if you have enough places that you interviewed at and did reasonably well in your interviews and you rank enough places, that magic number, Christina, is between 10 and 12 for most specialties. You will match. You'll have a 95% chance of matching in most specialties. Derm aside, orthopedics aside, those. But if you get those looks, and the fact is now with applicants' ability to signal programs and regions of the country they may want to be in, that should help programs better decide who they might wish to take. But my advice is stay calm. At this point, it's out of your control. If you have enough interviews in your respective specialty, odds are, numbers game, you match. Simple as that. And in our case, as a LECOM student, hopefully they've ranked enough LECOM sites because, let's face it, LECOM students want LECOM sites want LECOM students. Why, of course.
Wonderful. All right. Is there anything that I haven't asked you that you wanted to really focus on?
I think the other aspect of this for students, that if they're at a position where they were unable to match, another advantage that LECOM has is just a broad array of programs and new programs and such where, we have opportunities to help students get positions in places, new programs we may be developing or developing in the future. It's a focus of our institution is GME. And I think we have about over 1,000 first-year affiliated positions in virtually all specialties. So what I'm saying is every LECOM student from every LECOM campus said, I want to match into a place that's a LECOM affiliate. They could, which is amazing. As such, about 20% do choose that. So, we have plenty of opportunity for people to match into places, and if for some reason they were not fortunate enough, we have plenty of opportunity for them to fill spots that we may have or are developing. But I think by and large, students receive an awful lot of career counseling here and direction, starting in year one, about is this my specialty, is this realistic, do I have a chance, and what programs might consider me? And really that's kind of what it's all about. One of the big, of course for Match Day, we will have a very big celebration, which will be right at our Elmira College here to celebrate those matching with families and friends and students all attending and faculty. We feel very optimistic for a very positive match experience. And you know, if our students don't necessarily get their top specialty the first time, we're hoping in the subsequent process they certainly will match into a program that will be a good fit for them.
Let's lastly then reflect on, just tell me what it's been like going to these past match days and experiencing all of the emotion of all of these students, either getting their first, their second, anything like that, just the whole experience of match day.
It's been incredible. You know, I'm always so incredibly happy when a student aspires to a very competitive specialty, a very competitive program, and we certainly had that last year with many of our students, one matching into Vanderbilt for IM, and some other very competitive, and they matched them, and some were you know, they broke the glass wall, they broke it. They were the first DO or first LECOM student that had ever been taken. That makes us very proud, but we're very proud of all of our students. Very proud wherever they match, and we've done enough career counseling that we hope they will get the specialty of their choice. Hopefully in the location of their choice. They don't often get both, Christina. It works out to probably about less than 50% actually always get one of their top 3 choices. That's how competitive this process is. And that really very much depends on the specialty. But, you know, we feel that we've prepared them well for this process, and we're there with them every step of the way to support them and to assist them in getting a competitive residency in a competitive specialty.